Hey guys, welcome to 𝐄𝐌𝐏𝐻𝐖𝐄𝐃 podcast. I'm your host, Dr. 𝐄𝐌𝐏𝐻𝐖𝐄𝐃, and thank you so much for listening on. You could have been anywhere in the world and you decided to spend just a few moments of your precious time, and we greatly appreciate it. Here on the podcast, we talk about three things: living a plant-powered lifestyle, enhancing emotional resilience, and creating a thriving mindset. And I interview a range of passionate guests such as physicians, dietitians, coaches, entrepreneurs, and many more. And please join me as I deliver these engaging, informative, and high-valued conversations for you. So what are you waiting for? Come on inside. Hey guys, what's going on? This is Dr. 𝐄𝐌𝐏𝐻𝐖𝐄𝐃, and guess what? This is the last episode of 𝐄𝐌𝐏𝐻𝐖𝐄𝐃 podcast. I am very, very humbled, blessed to have produced over 200 episodes, special series, a lot of great guests, experts, friends, colleagues. This project that happened by accident started in May of 2019, which was the original episode. And I'm very blessed and humbled to have my good friend and colleague host me. And I'm going to play guest. So we're going to turn the tables around for this very, very special last episode. So you don't want to miss this, and I'll see you guys inside. Okay, guys. Well, welcome to the last episode of 𝐄𝐌𝐏𝐻𝐖𝐄𝐃 podcast. I'm your host, Dr. 𝐄𝐌𝐏𝐻𝐖𝐄𝐃, and thank you so much for being here with us. You know, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you decided to come back yet again to this very, very special episode. And I'm very, very blessed and humble. We're going to do something very, very different. And you did not mishear what I said. This is our last episode, episode 200. And I have a very special host. I'm going to be the guest. We're going to switch it up a little bit. It is my good friend and longtime friend and colleague, Dr. Robert Graham. If this is your first time, he is the very first guest that I've interviewed on this podcast. And, we're going to go over, all the different mile markers that we've had since the first day we met. We're going to go into that. And he's going to ask me, the tables have turned, and he's going to ask me a bunch of questions, which I have no idea what he's going to ask, but I put all my trust in him because he is the best. And so without further ado, please welcome Dr. Robert Graham. Hello.
Hello, 𝐄𝐌𝐏𝐻𝐖𝐄𝐃. How are you, my friend?
I am doing fantastic in this moment, a little bit bittersweet. Haven't really had time to kind of process this very, very moment, but I'm here. We were talking a little bit offline, and I'm so glad that it's you. So,
well, I think the world is very glad that you are who you are as well, my friend. It is honor and humbling to kick off this crazy little thing you started over 200 episodes ago, and now we're celebrating you and the last episode. So, round of applause, everyone. I'm just kidding.
Yes. Yeah. Or what is the mono version? It's snaps, right?
Snaps, yeah.
What the new kids are doing.
Yeah, listen, honestly, I thank you so much for this opportunity. I don't have a podcast, and I never thought I'd be hosting one. So this is a first for me. So hopefully I do your podcast justice by interviewing the man, the legend, Dr. 𝐄𝐿.
Well, thank you so much. And I appreciate that. Right now, like a whole bunch of flurry of, really, really awesome memories just coming, through my headspace right now. But if this is the first time they're hearing about, our story and hearing about you, do you want to go into how we first met and how we've crossed paths?
Yeah, for sure, man. So I was looking back through the archives, and our first date was in a kitchen. And it was in October of 2022. And just think about that, right? Where we are today with the movement. And we've been part of multiple movements, lifestyle medicine movement.
2012.
I'm sorry, 2012. That's right. 2012. That's right. Yeah. It ages us a little bit. But so 2012, 13 years. So this is, our first date was in a kitchen. And in 2010, I had this wacky idea. What if I took doctors out of hospitals and teach them how to cook on Mondays to support Meatless Monday in a culinary school? and you and I share a dear friend and mentor, Chef La Marita. And I remember meeting him about a year before we met, and said, hey, what if we just get 13 docs into a kitchen twice a year, maybe 3 times a year, and teach them how to cook more plant-based? And I remember him saying, there's someone in my class right now that is a doctor that is learning to become a chef. And I said, well, he's the person that has to be part of this initiating or initiative called cooking with doctors, I think we called it, or called it for a while. And there you were, a young, handsome chef to be. And we've been friends ever since. And we've probably done, I don't know, half a dozen, if not a dozen cooking classes, both in New York, nationally. What we didn't do yet is international. And I think that's sort of the next movement, because, a lot of the work I'm doing now is really going where people are ready to change. And although America's slowly getting there, and we'll talk about this during my interview section with you, it's just not there yet. And so I look forward to many more cooking opportunities, many more kitchen opportunities, many more speaking opportunities. And I know you'll be speaking at ACLM this year as a keynote. So bravo, brother.
Dude. I'm going to promise not to tear up, because honestly, many people don't know this, but I do remember that date. Fast forward a little bit, I think 4 years later, because honestly, I don't know what kind of quotes you hold dear, but the expression and quote that brings up to mind is, people come into your life for a reason, for a season, and for a lifetime. And, you are the first and the third, for a reason and for a lifetime, because we've had our friendship for so long. And, I look forward to, I'm very proud of the past, of, where we are, individually. And also, like you said, can't wait for the future as well. And there's always this call to action. What I value and admire about you is, this very mission, very purposeful drive. Just really genuinely want people to heal, to really want them to heal from the inside out. And you do it with flair, you do it with style. The first thing I always remember, Dr. Rob, is always his fit. What the new kids are calling now these days, his fit, his style, his wardrobe, right? And he always has this bow tie. And I can't even imagine what his closet is like. But it's always his bow tie, and it's always the blazer and his pocket square or handkerchief, right? That just sets him apart so well. And I just think about that. I think about your integrative, academic, clinical experience. I just think about all that. And I think that's where you and I come together, is because we love to diversify, not just on an individual level, but also on a professional level. So, that's what I admire and value about you.
Oh, thanks, man. As a kid from New York City, 1970s, grew up in the 80s, early 90s. My name of my company is called Fresh. You have to have fresh haircut, fresh sneakers, fresh glasses, fresh bow tie. You just got to keep it fresh all the time. So, Colin, it's my turn to interview you, brother.
All right, let's do it.
All right. So let's start off like sort of softballs, and then we're going to go deeper, if that's okay. And yes, Colin does not know exactly what I'm going to be asking him. We did not prep for this. This is sort of my first attempt at being a host. So let's start with the biggest softball. So, looking back at 200 episodes, why did you start Thrive Bites? What was your goal?
Honestly, it was by accident. If you remember from the first episode, we might have talked about it. The first episode, we might have talked about it off camera. I would actually have to revisit the episode again. But this whole podcast actually was an accident. During that time, I was in the process of trying to figure out how to audio narrate or audio record my book, Thrive Medicine. And during that time, podcasting was not where it is now. it had exploded way afterwards. And at that time, I didn't even know what a podcast was. I never actually listened to a podcast episode, but it came about because my webmaster suggested that I download this app, and it was a podcast DIY app. So it was basically all in one, what is it called? All in a box, or something in a box, everything all in one into one app that you just record. And so I was like, what is a podcast? And so long story short, I figured out how to, narrate my my audiobook for my book, for my paperback. But then I got into the app and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And from there, I really enjoy conversations. You and I, we can have conversations for days. And so I knew what kind of, what did I wanted to bring? So to answer your question was, I knew that I wanted to interview, way more brilliant people than me. I really cared about how passionate people are, because with passion, in my eyes, it brings a certain level of like gusto, and gravitas and depth in terms of, why, what is it that they, what is the why behind what they do and what drives them. I was so fascinated about that. And so I wanted to combine that with food, right? I was in my early stages of, learning about lifestyle medicine. I was 20, back then. So the original episode was in May of, what year is it? 25? So 19. Yeah, May of 2019. That was the original episode where it aired. And I was kind of like halfway through. I misspoke. I was halfway through lifestyle medicine. Definitely finished school. I just really wanted to, galvanize, bring people together. I didn't know how to do it, but I thought of you as the first guest.
Looking back 200 episodes later, what does it still mean to you? What does this Thrive Bite still mean to you? Does it mean anything at this point? Or are you moving on? Or what does this particular platform mean to you today?
This particular platform gave me not only a platform, because it gave me a voice, honestly. And I think that is so rare, for physicians nowadays, where our voices can be just kind of like yelling in a gigantic hall, right? It can echo. Sometimes it just doesn't go anywhere. Now, back in the day, we had LinkedIn. We had these medical websites, right? People could blog, people could write articles, can do op-eds. But podcasting for me introduced a platform where I could voice my opinions, right? I could have my guests and have them voice their expertise, experience, and opinions. And we just have a dialogue. So what it means to me was a different way of communication and a different way of impacting. And, because I just launched TheChefDoc 2 years prior to that, it was just like another medium to be able to impact people.
Well, you bring up a couple of points there. It's in today's world where your platform, echo chamber, followers means sometimes in certain circles more than all those degrees that we have, the titles that we have, the doctor, the chef, the MPH, the diplomat, of the American Board of Lifestyle Medicine, all these things that really took a long time to get and to craft, right? And so the question for you is, would you consider yourself, now that sort of you're at the milestone of 200 episodes, an influencer?
That word is such a very nuanced word.
I prefaced it, that way, right? Because a lot of people who are considered influencer have all the other things that unfortunately don't have the things that, in academic and in schooling and everything else, but they have huge platforms. I'm not trying to minimize either one or maximize either one, but I just thought, you have a lot of people that follow your words, a lot of people follow your platform, purchase your books. So, Colin Zhu, are you an influencer?
I would like to say yes. And I would like to say, if there was a better word, I don't know what the verb version of impact is, impactor or something like that. Like I would like to use, a different word, but I would like to say yes, But, it's with the asterisk that it's really with sincerity that I'm here to be able to serve in terms of the lay public, in terms of patients, in terms of clients that really, really want to understand what's going on with their body as an ecosystem and how does it affect outwardly in terms of a ripple effect and how they all, connect. So short answer, yes, but with sincerity.
Beautiful. I get it. So let me ask you another sort of going a little bit more personal, because, sharing information is one part, but doing it with sincerity and science, I think, is what you bring to us. So how has this whole experience, particularly Thrive Bites, influenced or allowed you to grow more personally? How has it shaped your growth personally?
I think it shaped my growth because it allows different types of conversations that I personally would never have had. It allowed me to cross paths with a lot of people that I wouldn't have. I've interviewed a lot of people internationally. I've interviewed someone from Panama. I've interviewed someone from Lebanon. It's just, it's the uses of technology, right? And also it shaped me personally because that's what I loved. It reminded me, it was a different way of saying to yourself, like, it's important to continue to have dialogue and it's important to have conversations because those two helps us to further growth as not just me personally, but as human beings, right? Yes, professionally, because we do talk about science in many different layers and aspects, but it allows for the room and the dialogue because we want to learn at the end of the day. Right. I mean, this is not classroom per se, but you do learn from it, but with a lot more, I would like to say a lot of passion, a lot of fun, a lot of humor. And you also get to see people's humanity, going back to what we were saying before, the whole why of why someone built a company or wrote this book or, did what they did. So
beautiful. So in that vein, so what episode deeply affected you the most? And then don't mention any names, by the way. Which one has been which has most affected you deeply? And then which one did you wish you had a do-over?
Oh, man. I would have to think about that. You mean which one affected me the most, or which one affected, meaning like
let's do both. Let's do both. So which one really affected you, resonated with you, right? The conversation you had. And then which one, because we're on a podcast, right? Which one had the most clicks or likes or whatever measurement of success of that episode was it?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say personally, I can't really narrow it down to one episode. I would say personally,
besides the first one,
yeah, like literally that's the gold standard. And, you can't really get two more handsome men, into one virtual room. So yeah, besides that one, I would say lately we've been interviewing and recording more of a series surrounding mental health. And the stigma, more of the taboo-ness, and how do you navigate conversations with that? That affects me personally because more than a year ago, I joined a Asian male only peer support group. And that has helped me in terms of mental health because, Asian Americans statistically are, one of the lowest demographics to be able to seek mental health resources. So to be in the same space with others that looks, like you or looks similar like you, and to be able to share, open up and be vulnerable is very, very powerful. And as a male today in today's society, we can go for days with this topic in particular, but as a male, in this society, we have to go through, different kinds of conditionings and stereotypes and expectations. And at the end of the day, it's really saying to yourself, like, how can I live as honest as possible, as truthful as possible, but still be able to, heal, with others. So that series meant a lot, to me. What I had to do over again, there are a couple of episodes revolving around, I would say, weight loss that I probably would do over again. More so because certain nutritional topics can be, just very, very nuanced, very controversial, it could be. And sometimes, depending on the best available science at that moment, could be very mixed.
Well, that's the beauty about science, right? That's the beauty about science, though, right? It is constantly evolving and hopefully self-correcting. And that's why, to the bane of many of our existence, every single study says more studies are needed. But I don't want to come off this topic really quick, because I think what you mentioned is really important in terms of personal growth and what was most impactful for you. This whole area of mental health, right? Particularly in men. And so for those who haven't listened, I just want to dive into that a little bit, because I think it's really an important sort of understated and underappreciated segment of what you do. I've known you for many years, and we've shared many laughs, some tears together. And one of the things that I've always believed is that living your authentic life. And so as a Latino, right, we have this sort of cultural notion of machismo. We can't be. So just if you could talk a little bit about, and I don't want to blame, Latin men as being all machismo, and that's why not vulnerable enough to share. What sort of key insights have you learned through your men's group or through your own development in that space, Colin?
Oh, man, I appreciate this question so much. Well, as a human being coming from a Chinese heritage, so if this is the first time you are watching this episode, born, bred, and raised in New Jersey, I'm born to immigrant parents that came over in the early 80s. And, for Asian descent, Asian culture, especially in the Chinese culture, I don't think we have like a word to be analogous to say machismo, but there is, so what I grew up personally, my personal lived experience was my father didn't really emote much or at all. And all the emotional intelligence and sensitivity that I gained was, from my mother, who you also know as well. And that dichotomy really groomed me, for better or worse. And so what I also learned was this concept of intergenerational trauma. So for me, my personal mission is to be able to self-heal, emotionally regulate well, that I could dispense, worthwhile values to the next generation, whether it's my own children, whether it's students or, colleagues, not to preach, but really say to yourself, how can I heal? How do I, not go through denial or project or, emotionally, react, right? Because no matter what time period we are, we're still human beings and we still have a very emotional core. And sometimes that upbringing, if you guys ever study the attachment styles or the attachments, that also plays into this as well. That has been very influential for me. So for me, it's very important to, as a male, to kind of change that concept, to really look at myself as more of an individual and to be able to say like, yes, here are things I would keep. These are things I would not keep. And this is what I would add. And that's very, the philosophy of Bruce Lee. So.
Well, yeah. Let's take this 1 second a little deeper, okay? Because, I had the opportunity of meeting both of your parents in social situations, and it's a little time to give your mom a little flowers, right? Because your mom is all love, and she's talk a little bit to your audience, because I think, we are a product of our parents, and good, bad, and ugly. So just tell the audience a little bit, because many people haven't met your mom, and she's been such an influence in your life, but also in anyone she touches. So give her, just offer a little flowers, 2 minutes.
It's funny because I actually bought some sunflowers on the 4th and brought them home. So my mom, it's interesting you asked this question, because I literally, people ask me a different way, right? You ask me directly, who my mom is, versus others that don't know me. They would ask like, how did you get into lifestyle medicine? How'd you get into culinary medicine? Blah, blah, blah. And I usually start with my mom. And for those of you who don't know, my mother is, she's many things. She is currently still a practicing physician. She was raised in the knowledge base of traditional Chinese medicine, hailed from overseas, originally from Hong Kong, studied under two sifus. She specializes in really complex cases, built her own small business, her own practice in Staten Island, New York. And that's where I learned that, man, you could literally like do everything. And she was the Jill of all trades because she was not just a doctor, but she was, the secretary, the phones, the biller, the janitor, like she did it all before, later in her career where she hired her first employee. So I learned a lot of values. One of the things was compassion. One of the things was integrity. And really the third was really how to look at patients in a holistic and whole person approach. And this was way before I got into osteopathic school, that's part of our 4 tenets. You know what I'm saying? So she's been a huge, foundation. I actually originally wanted to be a chiropractor because our family chiropractor was amazing. He was a beautiful human being. But then eventually it came back to like, okay, let me do kind of like a East meets West type of situation. And that's how I started my path.
I know it's funny. When we first met, I said to her, we were building out fresh medicine, and we do have an integrative health and wellness center in New York, and we're always looking for the best people, not just another practitioner, but really the person that fulfills the sort of mission that we're trying to build as well. And I remember talking to you, Mom, not joking. You looking to come on board? I was trying to recruit her, and she was not having it. She was her own boss, and I loved it. And now you guys live in California and living the dream, the Cali dream. So we're about halfway. So I wanted to sort of top this off a little bit, and then sort of dive into maybe a parallel subject here. So now reflecting 200 episodes, what's the legacy of Thrive Bites? Is it going to live, or is it going to get shut down?
Good question. So the podcast platforms will continue to live. So you can still hear it, on all major podcast platforms. It's going to live on the YouTube space because the first I'd probably say the first half of the seasons, it was all audio. We didn't decide to record video. We did video a lot later on. So a lot of the video podcasts also live on the YouTube space. The plans are to archive the entire thing, have it live on the website. So there's going to be a membership wall. That's where it's going to live. But you could just look it up for free.
Cool.
So,
all right, cool. So last question on this segment here is, you started off, the word thrive was intentional. How would you define thriving today? Let's start with you. For you, let's define what thriving means to you, and then what for the people who haven't are new to you. Sorry you missed 200 of them.
We could always go back.
You could always go back. And so yes. So what would the sort of first person listening to you today? How would you describe thriving for yourself and thriving through life? Let's call it that.
It's interesting because over the pandemic, I actually had to think about this question because it was a time, I'm sure we all remember, prayers for the ones that passed on from that and their families, is that, it just kind of stopped your world, right? And so reflecting on it, I dove deep into how can I contribute? How can I serve? Basically, I came up with the Thrive formula. You were graciously also part of that as well. And the Thrive formula has 5 pillars. It was food as medicine. It was fitness in a very functional fitness. It was relationships. It was community, and it was resilience. And I put resilience with an asterisk because that was kind of like the defining moment of humanity. Can we be resilient through this really tough time? Resiliency is something for me something is it's a skill set. It's a quality that you could definitely practice and master. I also define it as you can, it's like a muscle that you have to learn to be able to adapt, being able to pivot. I heard from a lot of people they just don't love that word anymore because it's used so many times. But it's being able to be like water. Water takes the shape of every container. It could also crash. It could also, just be like a babbling brook. But it's interesting because it's like, okay, how do I navigate through life with the path of least resistance? But on top of that, I also really found the values of having a mission / purpose, having that gives you a certain type of direction or pull towards something. Right. And I really cared about community. And also I cared about, living as authentically as possible, and being able to say to yourself, who am I? And that's okay if that definition changes and evolves over time. But who am I really? How can I, do and live my truth, benefiting others, not harming others, and be able to have a positive effect? That is thriving for me.
Beautiful.
Hey guys, what's going on? This is Dr. 𝐄𝐿𝐓𝐂𝐇𝐄𝐃, TheChefDoc, and if you guys have been following, we are in the writing phase of Empowered Kitchen cookbook set to be published for the fourth quarter of 2026, and I'm super excited. Over 100 different types of recipes that are plant-forward, plant-based from over 30 co-authors, including myself. Answering this question, how do our food choices affect me, my community, and the planet that we live on? But I want to address your attention to something way more pressing. Since November 1st of this year, SNAP benefits have been halted and stopped for over 40 million Americans. What does that mean? The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Programs, which gives us dollars for food assistance for children, people with disability, seniors, and families, are going to be halted. These types of benefits are essential, not optional. So you can join us by pre-ordering a copy, and we will match $25 to every pre-order, and it goes to a local food bank. I'll be partnering with Second Harvest Food Bank of Orange County, and also matching and donating my time to be able to feed families that need it the most. SNAP benefits are essential, not optional. Please help us fight food insecurities, and remember to click on the link below and pick up your copy today, and I'll see you guys on the next one.
You've met Julie, my wife, and one of the things she always says, it reminds me of that health is a verb. And in many ways, you sort of resonate that, right? It just doesn't happen to you. You have to do it, and you try to thrive through the experience. By the way, there were 2 Bruce Lee drops there, and during that little segment, if people didn't realize too, his famous quote, be like water, right? Exactly. No, it's beautiful. And something that I remember when you were sort of coming up with your formula. The idea is that we can probably dive into that whole segment too, because what you've done, I think, take that leap and try to be uncomfortable and start a podcast, start a platform. And I agree, I still haven't. And I remember every year or so, I say, hey, Colin, how do I do this? How do I do this? And you graciously send me how to do it. And I still don't. But one of the things I like to say is that, our formula is fresh, right? It's food, relaxation, exercise, sleep, and happiness. And I think your resiliency and happiness tend to go together based on positive psychology, because it's really the community, the other people matter. And that's sort of what Chris Peterson's the father of positive psychology, that my wife shared her knowledge with us during Fresh. Really, it's the community you surround yourself with. And so if I could say that what you've done is gather people that want to sort of live that life, be like water. And we should be changing at every milestone on our lives, right? Things make us stronger. Some things break us down, but hopefully, you have enough resilience to stand up and do it again. And so I think the way I would define for you is having the resiliency to get up and do it tomorrow. And I think that's really with an attitude of gratitude. I think that's something that you bring into your own life, but also you share wide with your community. So I wanted to share that with you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It means a lot.
All right, so that's enough of that touchy-feely stuff because we're men and we don't talk about that stuff.
Yeah, we don't talk about that. We don't emote and
Yeah. So now that this chapter is closing down, what's on the horizon for Dr. Collins? And then actually, you know what? Let's make it into 3 parts. Okay. So what's the next big move? Well, what's the next move for you? And what are you most excited about? And what are you most scared about?
Okay. So basically, if this is your first time to the channel, give you a little bit of an overview of timeline. The TheChefDoc started back in 2017. The TheChefDoc, then the book, same year, 2017, then the podcast, 2019, the Thrive formula in 21. We did put out an app for a hot minute, but we had to dissolve it. And that's where we are right now. So basically, we've consolidated everything. And our next step is we are writing a collaborative cookbook, which you graciously have, said yes to. The idea of the cookbook, it's called Empowered Kitchen. The premise of this is really how do our food choices and lifestyle choices affect our health, community, and planet? And so going back to after school, I graduated off cycle. For those of you who don't know, I graduated off cycle. I stayed a year behind to be a teaching assistant. So it took me 5 years, graduated off cycle. So I had about a year to play around with. And that's how I entered into culinary school and then got my certification at IIN, which was also in Manhattan, during that time. So the reason why I chose that school, and I'll bring it back to the cookbook, is because I really needed to understand not just nutrition, but where food came from and all the different points on how it arrived to, our plates. And so the school, unfortunately it's not there anymore, but the school beautifully laid that out, for us. And so over the years of my career, I just kind of help people be able to connect these points. More so now, really, really emphasizing the planet because, yes, climate change has been, documented for a very long time. But, last year, we're 25 right now. Last year has been the hottest year on record, since pre-industrial levels. I just felt like we needed a cookbook that brought authority. So, Dr. Rob is a doctor. He's a chef. He's a men's interior, like he does design. He's a stylist. He's a men's stylist, right?
Yeah.
So I needed to bring authority to the book. And so I needed to make it into a collaborative cookbook. So we're doing it with a team of around 35. So we have doctors, we have chefs, we have coaches, dietitians, farmers, and environmentalists. And so they all help me to be able to help with all those interconnecting questions. Because everything is an ecosystem. Your body's an ecosystem, the community is an ecosystem, and the planet is made up of many ecosystems. And right now we're living through, you could break each one of those down. They can be crises individually, but they're all connected. And I think the reason why us physicians tend to have a hard time in terms of convincing the lay public is because we're so inundated with so much noise, whether it's nutrition, whether it's social media, whether it's health. You talked about influencers, whether it's mis and disinformation from health influencers, that I needed to cut through the noise and create a cookbook, not just of beautiful recipes, but also actionable strategies and educational content, to be able to say to readers, whoa, this is not just what I'm eating, but I can actually take action on this. And guess what? It's kind of like COVID. What you say, don't say, do or don't do has an effect on something else. So that's what I want the book to do. That's the next steps. So that's a short-term next steps. And then there's a long-term next step. So.
Yeah, I was wondering about where that cookbook was, by the way.
It's still there.
But it takes, listen, I think, again, it's the perseverance, resiliency. Another example, I've been wanting to write a cookbook and you've done it. And so there's a lot of things that we put on back burners, but what you do, you take the back burner analogy, you put it onto the front burner, you put attention to it. So kudos to the next step. So yeah, definitely excited about that opportunity. excited about the book. Now, before I sort of have my sort of final question to you, I just want to hit you with maybe 5 minutes of what does Colin think? Cool. All right. So let's start the first question. Here. So you're writing a cookbook. Do you think people are cooking more now, or do you think they're sort of gotten back to their pre-COVID ways of not cooking? So you're writing a book, right? I've had the opportunity to meet sort of incredible chefs in this space, and many of them say that I buy this cookbook and it sits on people's shelf and they never use it. And so, what do you think? Worth the time, not for yourself, but to share the knowledge? Are people cooking? Let's start with that question.
I would say people are not cooking enough. I would say we are kind of past the days of where our grandparents, nonas, abuelas, passed down their knowledge to us in the kitchen. We are in a time period where DoorDash is quicker, right? Uber Eats is quicker. The pandemic made that worse, to be honest. Well, unless you like sourdough bread, right? I think everyone was baking at that point. I would probably say we're kind of neutral in this space where my answer would still be that we could afford to cook more. And there's you added something to Michael Pollan's quote that you do this every time is Michael Pollan's quote. If you don't know who he is, he's a food writer. And he famously says, eat plants, not too much. What's the third one? Rob?
Eat food.
Eat food, plants,
mostly
but
plants,
not too much. Mostly
plants, not too much.
But your fourth thing is to cook it as well.
And cook, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
and to cook it as well.
Yeah.
So basically, I would say not cooking enough. So to answer the other question is, we are not, like, my plans are to not just do a cookbook, but also to do a second and third layer to this. So, the second layer to this is being able to capture recipe videos. Don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to, capture Dr. Rob's beautiful face, be able to capture him cooking, right? Capture other people speaking, bundle it up into like a QR code. And so the reader, when they flip through it, they can actually hear the author talk about said subject or watch said recipe. That's a second layer. The third layer, actually make a documentary, whether it's the book or something revolving around lifestyle medicine. So,
all right. So I'm glad you're not sitting on the sidelines for the next 50 years of your life, Colin. So let's stay on this sort of Ask Colin. Favorite meal to eat?
Oh, soup noodles all the way.
Favorite meal to cook?
Gumbo.
Cool. Plant-based too, of course.
Yes.
How do you get the andouille sausage flavor in there?
Andouille sausage. Well, that's actually funny because my Friday night dinner back in NGI, we made a chorizo. We made a Spanish style chorizo. And we had to do that with trumpet, the oyster
mushrooms.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Couple more questions. Organic worth it?
Organic is worth it for some, but not all. So I think Environmental Working Group came out with the new list for 2025 for Clean 15. So I would defer to that.
Well, that's really important because it's a question I get a lot, right? And so the way I say it, organic if you can, and then go to EWG and look at the Dirty Dozen and choose organic when you do that. But I think you and I share, and what we learned in culinary school is that eat more plants, eat more fruits and vegetables, right? And that's really the goal. And if you can, adhere to the EWG Dirty Dozen and sort of choose that way. So good.
I would add a fifth one. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I would add a fifth one to Michael Pollan's quote. And then you said to cook it. The fifth is, honestly, learn how to garden, right? And that full circle brings back to you because you famously did what?
Started the first ever rooftop edible garden on a hospital where we fed patients food from our rooftop farm, started a movement called Bedside, from rooftop to bedside. So thanks for the plug.
And the reason why I bring that up is because one of my favorite episodes is I interviewed farmer Bob Jones. He's a second generation vegetable garden out in Huron, Ohio, a chef's garden. And I love the episode because he sits in front of a gigantic John Deere tractor for the episode. I love it. He was like, I was preparing for you. I was like, I love this. But what
he was a bow tie too. He was a bow tie too. He was a bow tie too.
No. His brother. It's his brother. There's two of them.
Oh, yeah. Really? With the red bow tie?
There's two of them. Yeah, the red bow tie. Yeah. So you have there's Bob Jones Sr. and then Bob Jones Jr., who is the CEO, and then the public figurehead is Farmer Lee. He's the one with the red bow tie. Yeah. So the reason why I bring up that episode is because the biggest thing I learned from that was that he told me that our modern agricultural practices, which represent 99% of America, is our soil health is basically 60% deplete of nutrition. So, make a long story short, cook your food, but also garden, because you can control, instead of the modern industrial practices now, be able to control the nutrition. And he, says that, soil health equals produce health equals, body health and human health. So, I would say garden as well.
Cool. We have a couple minutes left. Sort of keep it short here. Colin, please. I'm the host. I'm trying to keep us on time, sir. All right.
You're doing a great job, by the way.
Great. Thanks, man. First time. All right. So big things in the news. I just got to bring it up. Okay. Seed oils, good or bad? I know you're going to say it depends. Like every
it depends. It depends. I would put that in, in moderation, minimally as possible. It's not a whole food at the end of the day. It's still a processed food. So it has some benefits, but it's not something I would just like drink out of the bottle.
Fair enough. Yeah. And I think that's important, again, learning. So I think what I hope I bring, and I think as extension you bring, right, is, nutritional science, you mentioned earlier, is very complicated, and it's a lot of it is epidemiological research. There's very little RCTs, feeding you one thing, feeding another person another thing, and then, doing an RCT on that. So a lot of them are sort of epidemiological. So you make inferences, causation, relationships and stuff like that. And so, in culinary school, what we learn is that the reason why seed oils are so ubiquitous is that they're cheaper. And a lot of junk foods or fast foods or processed foods use seed oils. So I think if you just move the target, at the same time of why we're using seed oils, I think we're going to get to my last question, which, is what you mentioned already about processed foods. Now there's a new term called ultra processed foods. And so any understanding about, the differentiation between whole foods, processed foods, we learned it in culinary school too. And then now this new term called UPFs, ultra processed foods. Any thoughts on those?
I would probably say the stick. So going back, if I had, so this is what I teach my patients is that, I'm not trying to turn you vegan. I just want you to eat more plants. Right? Like that's it. Eat more plants. Okay. And I think that, we talk a lot about meatless Mondays. It's a huge thing that you advocate. If every American did meatless Mondays, we would, be really better off. But eating more plants. So what that means is eating whole intact ingredients means that if Mother Nature didn't, grow it out of the ground off of a tree or off of a vine, man has messed with it in some way. And that's where you get that spectrum of process and ultra process. So whole wheat would be whole intact to white flour, white pasta, white bread would be the ultra processed. Cereal would be a good example, right? And so I would probably say, real food has no nutrition label. Real food is perishable. Real food will eventually die off. Real food is basically everything in the produce section. Real food does not live on a shelf. And that's what I tell them, is to pursue whole intact food.
Yeah. And I think I'm not going to speak for you, but what I try to do at least is small digestible bites, because each of these topics I just sort of hit you with at the end, they're huge. And
Huge.
It is not one soundbite, and I think in today's world, and I think you did that over the course of your 200 episodes, is try to give a very balanced approach to this because, some people argue the reason why processed foods are so popular is because it feeds a lot of people, that convenience part, right? And so there's an important next phase of this entire movement that I think is starting to percolate up here in the US, good, bad, and ugly. But I think you sort of positioned all of us to have that conversation, Colin. So my last question to you, okay, is so what's one final thought you want to leave us all with?
I would probably say my final thought is never stop learning. I would say be curious, have a skeptical mind, right? Continue to ask questions. I think the biggest thing that I've learned as a host, because I've never been a host, is how do you ask better questions? Because I've learned that in order to get the best answers really depends on how you ask the questions. And I've always been on this, road of like, how do I ask better questions? And so, what I would leave for the listener and the reader and the watcher is to remain curious, have an open mind, know that your health affects someone else. So thereby your choices, are going to affect someone else. Just make sure to, prioritize your health. Health is wealth. I think Ralph Emerson, said that it's really going to stop us in our tracks if we don't take care of our health, because I want people to achieve their dreams, live long enough, lifespan, live a good high quality life, health span, to be able to actually witness that. Right? Not just like wait until 65 to retire and then live your life. Your life starts now. So.
Amen, brother. Well, listen, I thank you for being you. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to interview you. I hope I asked good questions because you gave great answers. And so what do people do next? Now that this podcast is shutting down, where do people find you? Where can people continue to sort of follow you and be inspired by what you do?
Yeah, so basically what I will continue to remain in is I hold a lot of leadership positions in the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. So with me and a whole organization, our goal is to be able to really push the needle forward. No matter what administration we're in, no matter how many corporations are trying to buy lobbyists, to really, really influence, whether it's the dietary guidelines or, the end caps of your supermarket, right? So we're trying to push the needle forward. You could find me at TheChefDoc.co. We have updated the website, TheChefDoc.co, TheChefDoc as a social media handle to everywhere else. And we have a lot of great things down the pipeline. We've consolidated a lot of things. So all the offerings will live in the membership of the website. Be on the lookout for the book. Our goal is to release it, to publish it in 2026. We make no money from this. It's really a labor of love and a labor of servitude because all the profits is to benefit to the planet. We're giving it back towards reforestation partners that are nonprofits and also to partners that are working so hard to clean the plastic out of our ocean, because this could be a whole nother episode. Plastics are basically in everyone. So, we're trying to spread the awareness and help the planet by that way. So more to come, and definitely YouTube. I'm definitely going to be shifting more towards interviewing people in person and creating more videos, in YouTube. I would say those are my biggest call to actions.
Cool. Well, listen, living in gratitude in your presence, as always. It's your show. You close it out, brother.
Oh, man. So thank you, Rob. Thank you so much. You're a blessing. You and your wife are a blessing. The community that you've created, keep doing what you do. Can't wait to see you soon. And, I'm glad that, no matter where we are, I say this for my professional colleagues and also the people that are patients and clients alike, is that it's really the power of we. Okay, there's a reason why there's an I in illness, and there's a reason why there's a we in wellness and well-being. And the point is that we can't do this without each other. So thank you, Dr. Rob, for all that you do. Guys, signing off on the last episode. If you like this, please comment, like, and subscribe. And if you felt like this was a benefit for someone else, please let them know. And please say thank you to Dr. Rob. And I'll see you guys in the interwebs. Bye-bye.
Hey guys, we hope you enjoy that episode. If you like that, please like, comment, and subscribe. And please follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, and anywhere that you listen to your podcasts. And if you felt that this was a benefit for someone else, please let them know. And don't forget to give us a 5-star rating, and we greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next one.